Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today in this video, we are going to see types of components in React.js. So if you are new here, please consider subscribing so you won't miss any future content. Now let's start the video. Yes, so as you can see on my screen, this is the project which we have created in the few videos back. And you can see here we have app.js and index.js is still here. And you can see I am running this application right now and it is running on 3004. Okay. And also we can go to the browser and we can see hello world is coming because we have changed the content last time here. Okay. And we have saw like how the JavaScript also running here. Okay. So now let's see how we can create a component, okay, and how many components are there. First of all, there are two types of components in there in React.js, okay. The first one is functional component, or we can say stateless component, okay. And the second one is class component, or we can say stateful component, okay. So these are the two types we have in React.js, two different types of component. So let's see how we can create it and how we can use it. Later we'll discuss like what is the difference between both of them. Okay, so let's go ahead and let's create one component. Okay, now we'll say first component we have it as header.js. Okay, so whenever you have to make sure few things, like whenever you are creating component, the first letter should be capital only. Okay, that's the rule here. Whenever you create a component, first letter should be capital. Okay, then .js you have to use. Okay, not no HTML, no other things, only .js, or you can use .jsx as well. Okay, both are same, no difference between both of them. You can use JS or JSX, any one of them. Okay, so I am going to use JS for now and let's click enter. Okay, so right now you see this is the empty file we got it. Okay, now we have to create let's create functional component here. Okay, so let me write functional component. Okay, so let's create it. How we can create is, first we have to import React.js. Okay, so what is import, what is export, we're going to discuss in few videos after that, but right now what you have to do, you have to get the React.js library inside the header.js. Okay, so you have to write import, then React, R capital because that's a component, then from, and then you have to mention which library you are getting from. We are getting from the React library. Okay, if you open package.json, there also you can find the, in the dependency section, React as a library. Okay, so we are importing the React right now, and then you have to create a function here. Okay, so as we said, this is the functional component. We have to create a function, and the function name should be the same as the file name here in this case. Okay, so I'll say header, and inside this you can write return, and then you can and parenthesis inside this you can write a h1 tag or anyone you want. Okay, so I'll just say header right now here. Okay, so once we create this function, we have to export this component. Okay, so in the bottom you can write export default and then header. Okay, so this is how you can create a functional component. Here at the last what we are doing at the line number 11 is, we are making sure that other component should also access this header component. Okay, because we have to import this component somewhere else to render it. Okay, right now if I create it, if I go back to the application, it will not going to come here. Okay, because we have to import in the main file here. We have to consider as it app.js. Okay, app.js is our main file here. Okay, whatever component you have created, you have to import inside the app.js, then only it will be visible, or else it will not be visible. Okay, this is the one thing you have to make sure. So now let's see how we can import this header file in the app.js so that we can see it in the browser. Okay, so let's go back, let's go to app.js, and here let me remove this console.log and also the HTML here. Okay, yeah, and the first thing we have to do is we have to import it. Okay, so let's import, let's have import and then say header. Okay, and you can see it's showing us the IntelliSense as well, dot header from there, but let's write it manually. We have to write space, from space, single quote or double quote, and then dot slash, and here we can see header. Okay, You can write JS if you want, but if you don't write as well, it will automatically take it as JS only. Okay, and then we have to write it. We have to render it here. Okay, so what you can do is you can have angular bracket, and you can write header, and you have to self close. Okay, slash and end bracket. So it this is mean self closing. Okay, if you don't do this like this, if I say header here, not the middle one. Huh. So this is the open and the closing tag. Okay, but in this case, right now we are using the components, right? So that's why we have to do self close. Okay, because this is not a element, right? That's why we have to do self close. So this means self closing. Okay, so now we have imported our header file or the header component, and we have render in the app.js. Okay, so now if we go to the browser, we can see header is coming here. Okay, so this is how we can create a functional component and render in the app.js. Okay. Yes. Now let's see how we can create a class component. Okay. So as we created header component as a functional component, let's have home as a class component. Okay. So in the src, I am going to create a file here, calling it as home. Okay. And you see, I am creating home component means H should be capital. Okay. Then JS. Okay. Right now, I'm going to have the JSX to show you what is the difference. Okay, there will be no difference between JS and JSX. You can write any extension you want. Okay, it will work same. Okay, now what we can do is let's import React. Okay, this is a best practice you have to follow. Every time you creating a component, you have to import React. Okay, either if it is using or not, you have to import React. Okay, for sure. Then we have to have a class. Okay, because we are going to create a class component, so we have to use class. Okay, then class name, in our case home. Okay, because the file name is similar, file name should be similar with the component name. Okay, that's why I'm writing home, and then it should extend from react dot component. Okay, so this class, whatever class we are creating, it should extends from the react component. Okay, and then curly braces, enter. And after that, what you can do here is you have to write render method. Okay, because in this we have to make sure, like, we have to give this keyword to render our component. Okay, render keyword, render, then parenthesis, after that curly braces. Okay, once you do this, inside the render we have to write again return. Okay, and then we can return our component. Okay, so let's say h1 again, home I am saying here. Okay, so now you see, this is how we can create our class component. Now we can export it as well. So in order to export, in the bottom we can do export default. Okay, and home. So this way we can create a class component, or we can say stateful component. Okay. Now let's see how we can import this in app.js and show it on our website. Okay, web browser. Okay. So let's go to app.js and let's import it here. Okay, the import will be the same as the functional component how we did. It should be import, then the file component name, then from, and the file location. Okay, dot slash home in our case. Okay, and after this what we can do is we can have here home. Okay, and then this one. Now you see, I added home here, but you can see it's giving error. Okay, there is red lines over here, right? So let's see what error is saying. Okay, JSX expression must have one parent element. So what it is saying is, right now you can see this is the app component, and we are trying to return two things. Okay, but app, any component, whatever components we create, it should return only single thing. Okay, that's how the concept will be. In this case, what we can do is, as we want to render two component or return two components, we can have empty brackets. Okay, and inside that we can take this. Okay, and it will not going to give a error to us. Okay, so in the empty bracket means we are returning single thing, but inside we have two things. Okay, so component will think that we are returning only one because we have empty brackets. Okay, but we are rendering two things inside that empty brackets. Okay, this is how we have to handle these kind of cases. And if you don't want empty bracket, you can have div as well. Okay, so you can create div and you can render that. Okay, it's up to you, empty brackets or div. Okay, so let me have empty brackets for now. And yeah, so let's go to the browser, and now you can see we are able to see home component, which is our class component as well. Okay, both components we can see, and you can see there is no difference between JSX extension and JS extension. Both are similar. Okay, so there is no difference like JSX. If you use something else, you have to write no. The only syntax is changed because we are created class component. Okay, and here we have created function component. Okay, that's it. So this is how we can create our class component. Yes. So let's see the difference between functional component and the class component. Okay. So if we say about the functional component, if you see the code, how much we return to just render or return a header and just h1 tag, and for the class component, how difficult it is, like how much code we have to write. So basically, functional component is a simple, pure JavaScript function which just returns HTML. Okay, but in the case of class component, we have to render it and then we have to return it. Okay, and the second difference is in the functional component we don't require render keyword, okay, or the render method, but in the class component we require render method to render our HTML. Okay, that is required in the class component. And the third thing is, as we have functional component or the function here, we can easily take parameters from the parent and show it here. Okay, or work with that here. But in the case of home, we can't directly do that. Okay, we have to use constructor and then we have to get it. Okay, and as you see, this is a class component, so we need to have constructor, but in the case of functional component we doesn't require any constructor here. Okay, and the last thing I can say here, in the class component this keyword is mainly used. Okay, which is a very difficult task to handle this keyword in the particular code. Okay, but inside the functional component we don't need any this keyword here. Okay, so these are all few differences we have for the functional and the class component. But right now, with respect to the market, everyone are using functional components only. Okay, class components were there earlier when the React.js came into the picture, but after 2016 it was completely changed. Everyone are started moving to the functional component because the simplicity of the function component. Okay, because it's very simple to use and very much less code we have to write it here, and handling of the states. Okay, states, that is very important and it is very simple in the functional component compared to the class component. Okay, yes. So let's see how we can get the data from parent to child component and show it in the HTML. Okay, so if I say data, it means some value which is stored in the variable. Okay, let's see how we can do that. So we have to use props in order to get the value from parent to child and use it. Okay, so let's see how we can do. So right now we have to know what is parent and what is child. That is the important thing in whenever we are using components. Okay, so right now you see header. Okay, right now we are going to use header because functional component we are going to focus in this series. Okay, so here you see header is our functional component and it is imported inside the app.js. Okay, as it is imported inside the app.js, it means app is the parent for the header. Okay, and header is the child for the app.js. Okay, so this is how we have to consider. And now let's create a variable. Okay, let's say username equal to star. Okay, so now you see I have created a variable. Now I have to provide it as a parameter to our header functional component. Okay, so to do that, what we have to do is inside this tag here we have to do a space and say username equal to curly braces and again username. Okay, so the first name whatever we are providing, this is the name we have to use inside the header. Okay, if I say here name, then we have to use name only inside the functional component, which is the header. Okay, we can't use username. Okay, that we have to make sure. I'll show you how exactly it will work. Now as we provided the username to our header component, now it's time to use as a props. Okay, so the props, how we can import it. Okay, that's the one thing. We don't need to actually import it, but we have to mention in the parameters. Okay, and here if I write username, this is how we can get it, but this is the wrong way. I'll tell you how, what is wrong here. But let's change the heading here. Okay, instead of header I'll say welcome comma, and then how we have to use a variable inside the HTML is curly braces, and inside that we can provide the username. Okay, and now you see this is how we can do it. The only problem here is this thing. Okay, here this is a JSX component. Okay, this is again this is a JavaScript function, but again it is a JSX component. So JSX component will have object as a parameter. Okay, so that we have to make sure consider it. Okay, because we can't directly provide any value or any name inside this. We have to use curly braces here, and then we have to provide the name. Okay, because if multiple are coming, okay, if multiple properties are coming, we can't have like comma like this way, like username comma name comma number, something like this. Okay, we have to have this inside a curly braces. Okay, we have to wrap this in the curly braces, then only we can use it. Okay, and now if I go back to the browser, we should be able to see welcome star here. Okay, so let me show you. If I don't provide it, what will happen? There is nothing, welcome comma nothing is coming. If I provide username, it will come as username. Okay, and let's see one more thing. As I said here, if I use name here and if I go back, you see there is nothing is coming, and we can see, I think in the console, the error should be shown here. Okay, here you see username, it's saying it means, okay, it's not showing the error, but as we change here name, again we have to go to the header and we have to change it to name here. Okay, see, and if I go back, we can able to see star here. Okay, so this is how we can provide the prop from parent to child, and we can show the data into our HTML as well. Okay, yes, so this is how we can create our functional components and the class component. Okay, and we saw what is the difference between head functional component and the class component as well in this video. So thank you guys for watching this video. I hope you found it helpful. If you did, please consider subscribing and give it a like. I'll be back with more content in the next video. Thank you.